For years, whatever was left in my checking account after rent, my phone bill, a subscription I forgot to cancel twice, and one too many just this once dinners with the girls. That's what got saved. Some months that was $200. Some months it was 40. Some months it was a text to myself that said, transfer to savings. And then, mysteriously, never happened. I used to think that was just what being an adult looked like. Bills first, life second, savings whenever the universe felt generous. So, why did some of my friends seem to have money quietly piling up while I was doing the exact same job for roughly the exact same paycheck? Same rent range, same student loan headache, same love of a good happy hour? Turns out, it comes down to one decision, made once a paycheck, that has almost nothing to do with income and everything to do with order. Here's the concept, and it is almost insultingly simple. Pay yourself first means you treat your savings like a bill. Not a hope, not a goal you'll get to eventually. A bill due on payday, same as your rent or your car insurance. And it gets paid before anything else touches that money. Most people do it backward without even realizing it. Paycheck comes in, the fixed bills get paid, then the fun stuff gets paid, the takeout, the shopping, the concert tickets, and whatever survives that gauntlet gets swept into savings at the very end of the month, if there's an end of the month left to speak of. The problem isn't that you're spending money on things you enjoy. The problem is you made savings compete for leftovers against everything else in your life that's actively trying to spend that money, and leftovers almost never win. Leftovers are what's left after a dozen other things already had first pick, which means savings is functionally the lowest priority item in your entire budget, even if you never say that out loud. Flip the order and something strange happens. The money moves out of checking before you ever get emotionally attached to it. You never had the chance to decide whether you wanted to spend it because it was already gone, sitting in a savings account with your name on it, working for you instead of Target. The number people throw around is 10% of your paycheck, automatically the moment it lands. Not 10% of what's left. 10% off the top, treated with the same seriousness as your electric bill, whether you feel like it that month or not. Here's what that looks like at scale. The national personal savings rate in this country has spent most of the last few years sitting in the mid-single digits. And surveys from the Federal Reserve have consistently found that more than a third of adults would struggle to cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. That's not a personality flaw spread across millions of people. That's what happens when an entire economy is built around save whatever's left. And there is, structurally, rarely anything left. There's actually a name for part of this. Economists call it Parkinson's law of money, the idea that your spending will always rise to meet your income, whatever that income happens to be. Get a raise, and somehow the money finds new places to go. A slightly nicer apartment, a few more subscriptions, dinners out that used to be a treat, and quietly became a Tuesday. Your lifestyle expands to fill the space your paycheck gives it, unless you deliberately close off part of that space first. I did this for years without noticing, got a small raise, felt richer, and somehow my checking account balance looked exactly the same as it had before the raise. Nothing dramatic happened, no big purchase I could point to. The money just sort of evaporated into slightly nicer versions of things I was already doing. And my savings account never saw a dollar of it. I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad about the dinners or the raise or any of it. I'm telling you because I spent years assuming I just wasn't disciplined enough to save, when the actual issue was that saving was always the last item on a list that had no bottom. There was always one more bill, one more plan with friends, one more small purchase between me and the part where I finally put money away. There is always going to be a reason this month is different. That's kind of the whole trap. And the individual purchases never feel like the problem because they aren't. On their own. Nobody goes broke from one coffee. It's the fact that save whatever's left puts your savings behind every single one of those small decisions. All month long, so by the time payday rolls around again, dozens of tiny sure why not moments already had first claim on money that was supposed to be yours to keep. pay yourself first works because it removes the discipline requirement almost entirely. You're not relying on future you to make a good decision at the end of a long month, after a long week, after a long day. You're relying on a transfer that already happened before you had the chance to talk yourself out of it, back when you were rested and reasonable, and not 3 drinks into a girls' trip you didn't budget for. Here's why the 10% number specifically matters, and why starting now beats starting with more money later. Money you save at 25 isn't just money. It's money that gets 30 or 40 years to compound before you need it. Put $200 a month into an investment account, using something close to the stock market's long-run historical average return, and after 30 years, you're looking at a figure that can approach $250,000, give or take how the market actually behaves along the way. Wait 10 years to start that same $200 a month, and you don't just lose 10 years of deposits. You lose 10 years of the account growing on top of itself, which is usually the more expensive part. This part matters more for women specifically, and I want to say it plainly instead of dancing around it. Women statistically take more career breaks for caregiving, still deal with a wage gap that compounds over an entire working life, and tend to live longer in retirement, which means the number you actually need to have saved is bigger, not smaller. None of that is your fault. All of it is exactly why starting the automatic habit early matters more for you than it does for the guy in the next cubicle who's never had a single one of those interruptions. And this is where I want to reframe something, because finance content aimed at women loves to make saving late feel like a morale failing, and it just isn't one. You didn't blow it. Nobody sat you down at 22 with a whiteboard and explained compounding employer matches or why the order you pay things in matters more than how much you make. Most of us figured this out through friends, TikTok, or one very confusing conversation with a bank teller who assumed we just wanted to talk about the checking account. The fix isn't shame, it's a system. 10%, automated, the day you get paid, starting with whatever paycheck you have right now. Today, not the bigger one you're hoping for next year. And if 10% feels impossible on your current income, start at whatever number doesn't feel impossible. Because a 5% habit you actually keep beats a 10% plan you abandon by March. Quick note on where this money actually goes, because just save more isn't very useful without a destination. If your employer offers a 401k, that's usually your first stop, especially up to whatever percentage they match. After that, a Roth IRA is worth looking at, because you contribute money you've already paid taxes on, and it grows completely tax-free from that point forward, including every dollar it earns between now and the day you retire. You don't need to pick the perfect account today. You need to pick one and start feeding it automatically. Here's the part that should annoy you more than it probably does. Spending money in this economy has never been easier. One tap on your phone and a purchase is done. Buy now, pay later. Services will happily split a $100 order into 4 tidy payments, so it barely registers as spending at all. Every app on your phone is engineered by very smart people whose entire job is making the next purchase feel effortless, invisible, and slightly fun. Saving, meanwhile, usually takes you logging into a separate account, finding the transfer screen, typing in a number, and confirming it, assuming you remember to do it at all before the money's already spent on something else. The friction is not evenly distributed. It was never supposed to be. Nobody's paycheck is quietly benefiting from you being great at saving. And here's the one place this asymmetry actually gets flipped in your favor. And it's worth noticing. Employer retirement plans that automatically enroll you, the ones you have to opt out of instead of opt into, work dramatically better than the plans you have to sign up for yourself. Not because the investment options are different, because removing the friction from saving instead of from spending changes the entire outcome. Every single time it's been studied. That's not an accident. That's proof of exactly how much friction determines behavior. The spending economy figured this out decades ago and pointed all of it at getting money out of your account faster. You're allowed to point that same trick back at yourself. And honestly, you should. You don't need more willpower than the algorithm that's specifically designed to outlast it. You need your own automation, working on the same schedule as theirs. So, the money's already gone before the app even gets a chance to make its case. Now, if you've got high-interest credit card debt, you're probably wondering if paying yourself first still applies to you, and it's a fair question. Here's the honest answer. If you're carrying a card at 20% interest, that debt is growing faster than almost any savings account can keep up with. So throwing every spare dollar at it first usually wins the math. But don't let that turn into an excuse to save nothing at all. Even a small automatic amount, 5%, or just enough to build a $500 starter cushion, keeps you from sliding right back onto the same card the next time your car needs a repair. Attack the debt hard. Keep a tiny automatic habit running underneath it. Once the debt's gone, that same automation just needs its target switched from the credit card to your savings account. Okay, here's how you actually put this into motion, starting with your very next paycheck. First, pick your number and make it non-negotiable. 10% is the standard, but if that's not realistic right now, start at 5 and build from there. The amount matters less than the fact that it happens automatically. Every single time, no exceptions for a rough month. Most banks let you schedule automatic transfers the same day your paycheck lands. Set it and let it move before you ever see that money sitting in checking, tempting you with its little balance number. Third, if your employer offers a 401k match, get to that match before anything else. That's not a bonus. That's part of your compensation you're currently leaving unclaimed if you're not contributing enough to get it. Turning down a match is turning down free money that was already promised to you. Fourth, put your savings somewhere slightly inconvenient to reach. A high-yield savings account at a different bank than your checking account creates just enough friction that you won't casually dip into it, while still earning you real interest instead of the nearly nothing most checking accounts pay. Fifth, keep a small emergency fund separate from your longer-term investing. 3 to 6 months of basic expenses sitting in that high-yield account. So an unexpected car repair doesn't force you to raid the retirement money you're trying to leave alone for 30 years. Sixth, every time you get a raise, increase your automatic savings percentage before you increase your spending. Bank half the raise, live on the rest. You'll never miss money you never let yourself get used to having. And last, don't wait for the right income to start. The habit matters more than the amount at the beginning. Someone automating 5% of a smaller paycheck today will almost always end up further ahead than someone waiting to start until they're making more. None of this requires a finance degree or a spreadsheet you'll abandon in a week. It requires one transfer, set up once, that quietly does the discipline for you every single payday. So, back to that $40. The paycheck never changed. What changed was the order money moved in, and the fact that savings stopped waiting for permission from everything else on the list. You don't need to earn more to start this. You need to move the savings line to the top and let it happen before your life gets a vote on it. The bills will still get paid. The dinners with the girls will still happen. You'll just quietly have a savings account that isn't surviving on scraps anymore. If this is the nudge you needed to finally automate that transfer, subscribe, because I've got a lot more of these fixes that take one decision instead of a total life overhaul. And you deserve to know them now, not 10 years from now, when the math gets a lot less forgiving.